All right. Good morning to anybody watching. Morning for me, at least. Be jumping right in here. All right. 1 second. Actually, I'm going to run and blow my nose, but then I'll be right back. Okay. Jumping right in, like I said, back to some networking PRs. I noticed this one was merged. So the one that I was looking at on Saturday was this one. That one's merged. Now Brent looks like took a look at that one and got it merged. So we don't need to do that exact one, but there are still a couple of newer ones. There is the connection manager one, which we did try a little while back as well. Might be that the library might not receive enough maintenance. Well, right, yeah, no, it will be an official library as well. Looks like there's some ping stuff, enforced loop timeout. Got a little bit more on the timeout, although this is not saying that it's fixing an issue with the timeout. There is a new example. There is this, which is about the timeout. But has conflicts. Handling maybe, it looks like maybe factors into that. So there's some more we can take a look at in mini MQTT. I have the WizNet thing here as well, so we should maybe take a look if there's any on that side. We'll try mini MQTT to see if it's blocking. Or I mean, it's always going to be blocking, but we'll try it and see if it's like blocking even when there's no data. That was the undesirable behavior. Well, this is me. But it's approved now. We could get it merged. Oh, but it has conflicts now. All right. Well, we could resolve the conflicts on this one and try to get it merged because it was approved. But that's WizNet, and I'm set up to test that as well, although we were having trouble on the RP2040 with it. I don't know if that's an RP2040 thing or if it's like kind of a me and Ethernet and microcontrollers thing. And to ever really have too much success in that realm. It's consistent, but I think let's start actually start this one. It's a little bit older. I don't know how all of these interact with each other, although it looks like we actually are probably going to have conflicts now because of the this one's not. So we'll start on this one, I guess, and then I'll try to resolve the conflicts if I can on the other one. The timeout argument of loop depends on the socket timeout with some extra debug logging. This is a git diff. Entirely sure what I'm looking at. Let's see. Out logger stuff? No, we added logger stuff. Okay. The following code. Okay, connect. So that's connect hook main logger get logger logging radio connect socket pool. So it looks mostly like the simple test for MQTT if my memory serves. Default socket timeout is set to 3, logging loop, MQTT loop. We're passing a 0.5 running on, this was a while back. Okay, produces that output, making the problem evident. The wait for message only returns after the socket timeout, which is bigger than the loop timeout, thus breaking the promise of loop semantics when there's no traffic. Okay, so it was open 3 days ago, but this is very old CircuitPython version. So we should test that with something newer. Just confirm that it's still a problem the same way, and then confirm the fix, which was if the timeout which was passed to loop is less than the socket timeout, raise the exception and tell them that the loop timeout must be bigger than the socket timeout. Seems reasonable to me. They added a test as well to presumably make sure that part of the code catches it. That seems pretty straightforward to me. Go to mini MQTT. I will try to do most of my, well, I will do my testing. It was, what did Axel say was on the PyPortal, I think. I don't know if Axel Magnus will pop in. They were interested in this testing in this PR, if I understand it, or problems related to the PR. They were using a PyPortal. So I'll try to test this on native networking and PyPortal. And we'll see about Ethernet. Once we get into that other PR over in the Ethernet library, maybe I'll pop that out. We'll try it again, but I was not having much luck. But I could try switching main devices. We could try a few other things on the Ethernet side. We'll see how it goes. Firstly, though, we can update main like that. And then we can PR1 this. That's going to be, so I think I'm going to try to, I don't know, we'll see how the rest of these things go. I guess I can't stack up too many things. Pop off here probably about 1.5 hours, and I'll go eat lunch and get ready for the meeting. And then I'll be back at it in the afternoon, but I don't know if I'll come back to the stream or not. I'd like to close this one if we can confirm that the current everything is good and doesn't have extra delays. Because one thing I think is happening in this one, it's from a while back and it was mostly addressed, I believe, at different points in time. And so I think we want anybody who's having new things, we want them, I think, to make a new issue rather than keep adding to the end of that one if possible. Loop timeout to be longer, so that one is number 200. That's not at all what we want to do. So we can, I think, delete this, paste this. What version are we on here? 9.0 Alpha 1. We could even go newer than that, probably. Here, downloads. This is a TFT Feather ESP32S3. Oh, maybe. Yeah, it looks like it. That's the only one. Oh, we're on to beta 0. Nice. Okay, let's grab that. Double tap. I don't have the top-down camera set up. Not really doing anything super visual. We get into some more visual stuff, maybe I'll pull it out, but right now it's kind of networking. Like if you can see my TO connection in here, you're gonna be able to see 100% of everything that I'm looking at as well, pretty much. Sorry to bothering. Yeah, no, we don't really want promotions or chat bots. That's cool. Yeah, no, I'm gonna be a... It's gonna be a no for me. Go back to this song. All right, so that connected, and it is currently running HTTP server. So what we're gonna do is take code from the, but this uses plugging. I don't know how to apply this. Somehow there's a way I could like download this and apply it to my local instance. Which would be pretty convenient. But I think, I mean, we can see like it's 3 seconds and half a second, right? I think I can count the difference between 3 seconds and half a second, probably. And I guess the new one is gonna raise an exception. You don't really need to count. I will not use that server, because that's not a server here. Hopefully that's not on the internet. Sorry to whoever runs it if so. I cannot control C, which is a little bit awkward. Let's go with .io, which we can get from the other different example in here, probably. Huh. io.adafruit.com. It's adafruit.io, which I think is also a URL. Let's do it. Right, we're not like doing anything besides connecting. I don't know if I need anything more than that. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Lots of logging. I have the edited one. There's lots of extra logging in here. I don't know. I guess it's just because it passed the logger. No, it didn't though. Adding jitter? Attempting to connect broker. It's not actually connecting. Oh, okay, we're failing. Yeah, okay. We don't have the right stuff. Because Adafruit.io wants you to connect with your credentials. Well, your API token. Didn't do. Okay, code done. That one worked. Got exception. Loop timeout 0.5 must be bigger than socket timeout 3. So that's the new code that gave us this exception. The old code would have waited for 3 seconds. If I understand right. Makes the documentation of loop not be true. 7, 5. Seven. That is a bug fix, kind of, because it's not like it's new behavior, but it's not like new features or anything. It's still compatible with the same code. It doesn't behave the same way with the same code anymore. Get it as compatible. So this is timeout exception, or maybe phrase exception, loop, timeout, smaller than socket, timeout. Oh, and the loop. Okay, let's just say mints. Timeout behavior. Okay, ping handling has been tested on a much newer one, though still not new as of today, really. But has merge conflicts, so let's see how bad they are. FlatAct loop versus keep alive. This changes the way how pings are treated. Rather than sending ping rec based on how loop is called, is based on how messages are sent to the broker in accordance with an MQTT spec. Also, the ping handling was folded into loop in loop to make it work in cases with loop timeout when the loop timeout is longer than the keep alive timeout. Loop timeout is longer than the keep alive timeout. Whoops. It's like one of the few spots in the entire page that was just randomly clickable. Not true. I mean, there's a bunch of links on the page, but there's a bunch of more space that's not a link. Test it on this. So there is code here, I guess, we can use, but I can't say as though I truthfully understand difference. I don't know anything about the MQTT protocol really under the hood. I mean, it wouldn't be true to say I don't know anything about the protocol, but I don't know anything about the details of how the protocol works or the nuances of ping versus messages or anything like that. It's all just timestamps being set into a variable, though. That's pretty easy. Got rid of a pylint disable. Right, maybe it moved? No, it looks like it's gone. No, maybe it moved. It looks like it's gone, actually. Nice. It used to be if timeout 0, current time minus. If that's greater than keep alive, timestamp 0, handle keep alive by expecting recresp, keep alive elapsed, ping, RCS, spots? I don't know what RCS is. Loop. I don't know. While true, if. Now we have monotonic last message sent timestamp greater than keep alive. So we pretty much had the same thing going there. separate in that one, but this one's together, it looks like. Well, it's not together. There's just not two ifs anymore. So timestamp equals 0. We don't have the timestamp equals 0 check anymore. Oh, maybe this handles it? So if it's keep alive, handle keep alive, so that's the same. Debug, extend, rcs.extend? Oh, it's a list. Okay, so add the responsive ping to the list. Ping itself contains wait for message, which might have taken a while, so check here as well. Get time greater than timeout, logging looped after, break. And a test for that. Okay. It's not, I mean, it's not that much of a change, really. I think hopefully the conflict shouldn't be too bad. So we need to, let's check our remotes. Just see. Okay, I do have flat egg remote. Okay, so because if we can fix them, then we'll need to push to get it to the PR branch. So that's 199. Do I want to check out 199, or do I think I want to like actually check out this branch versus fetch maybe. There we go. Loop versus keep alive. To update main. And try to merge main into this. Okay, got a few, but it doesn't look too bad. So, okay, so in this one, it's just a more specific name, which seems pretty good to me. I mean, it takes up more space, I suppose, but makes the code more legible. As it being set here, as well as here, and a few more. That's the check that we just got from the other PR. Right, yep, so that's exactly what we saw on the diff page on GitHub. I think we don't want this, because we already have the while true right here. I think we want to take this one and just X this one. Because the timestamp is being handled with a bunch of the new code from this branch already. This does set stamp right here, though, and nothing... Oh, stamp is set up here now. Okay, this was outside the loop anyway. So that is from main. Give that a timeout. So that was part of the PR we started looking at on Saturday, I think. All right. Does it pass? That's fine. It's not checked in. You can take that, put that back on our device. And then we can try with this code as best we can, but we'll need to change server we connect to, and just like we did last time, we'll need the other fields for username and password. It's actually a token and not a password, but that's fine. io.adafruit.com. Copied it, huh? Let's go, Axel. So I think the one that we were looking at got merged, so it's definitely worth trying that latest version. And then I'm testing this one right now on. I also just merged a different one, which was, I don't think, to do with timeouts or anything too much. But I'm about to test this one, which is pings on native networking, and then bust out the PyPortal, and we'll try the latest versions. I'll try the latest versions on my end on the PyPortal. What is that? Assert 208? That's weird. Oh, I don't need all of this, really. I just need the password. QRS ID. This was lowercase. Already connected anyway, honestly. Let's delete that. Look here, because it's still doing it. Clear topic. I think it's trying to use. Yeah. Yeah. Grab just something with traffic to be more real. On off. Okay. Back failure. Right, because I think it's not just on off, it needs to be like /on off or something. Okay. Oh. Almost there. Iteration 1 of 63, we got farther, but it did just fail. Okay, what is this about? Is this a spaces? Okay, yeah, we got a spaces and a tabs problem here. Let's try. that. It's not the right indentation anyway. There we go. Okay, so now we got some iterations. I don't really know what we're looking for. Connection reset on number 4. Always the same. It is always the same. Publish. Publishing? I don't think we can. I don't know if we can publish that. Yeah, we need to give a real feed name and value. Which this one is zeros and ones, so I'll just do 1, I guess. I don't know, why was it succeeding 3 times and then failing? It's kind of weird. Maybe it's still going to do it though. Nope, now it's just succeeding. Okay, so, but it's also going to be spamming 1s into here. Okay. So it goes how many times? I don't know. Well, 63 it says right here, I guess. Somewhere there's a longer sleep. Iter 8 times keep alive. Maybe that comes after 63 then. Ping recs should be sent during this cycle. I think we would need the server traffic to know if that's happening all the way or not. I mean, I could get the client traffic too, I suppose. I could, well, that's not going through my PC. If I had Wireshark on the network, maybe. Got back to none type, not iterable. That's supposed to be inside the for loop, maybe? Yeah. I changed our published foobar. Then it has loop 1, and then it has extend inside. Keep alive timeout. Can I make it lower? Okay, yeah, now it's, so it's like 8 times that minus 1, it looks like, is our iterations. There we go. Sleeping for 10 seconds. And then on this next one, I guess it's supposed to have multiple ping recs, which we would need more logging to be able to see. Maybe if we enabled debug or something in the library, or else if we could see the Oh, okay, here we go, ping resp. Ping resp not returned. But part of the thing too is I don't know if Adafruit.io is set to do pings in this way. We might, like, you might really need a broker that's configured differently. Again, I don't really know that much about MQTT, especially on the server side of things, how all that's working. So we can't really run this complete test, but first half of it seems okay to me. The code change seems okay to me. What we'll do is test the, just like a more basic test that we can do. And I'll try to check on the blocking or not of it. So for that, we are going to want regular native networking for now. I will do Adafruit.io because that's the MQTT server that only one I have access to quickly and easily. Although one of these days I'd like to set up a MQTT server. I think that process might be kind of interesting. Okay, so we do photocell and on-off. I think both of those still exist because I've been using them for testing. On-off, and yeah. Okay, both of those are there. So this code has a while true. It calls loop, and then it sends the photocell value, and then it technically does a sleep 5. But that doesn't really tell us about the blocking nature of it or not. So let's let it run first. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and start changing code before we ran anything. Yeah, see, this is exactly why, because if there's anything that just doesn't work off the bat, we want to fix that first. And that's because it looks like I probably don't have some things we need inside of settings toml. We'll need to come over here to do. Quite a few things, just not the right ones. Okay, save that, close it. Bring this back. That again. Valid syntax for integer with base 10. Okay. I think maybe it doesn't like single quotes inside toml. Best guess is maybe it's like Java and single quotes are for characters instead of strings, but I put multiple characters in there, so I'm sure that would wreck Java. Seems to have interpreted as an integer. It's the same thing as character, technically, kind of, in a way. Loop timeout must be bigger than socket timeout. Okay, that's one thing we should probably fix, is the default one of these should work by default. I don't know where the default of the socket timeout comes from, but Oh. Okay, that's when you call loop, you can pass a timeout. And then when you create the object, you can pass a timeout. But the defaults make it so it fails by default. Is that true? Because loop defaults to 0. And socket timeout defaults to 1. All right, we need to fix that. Let's keep testing this though. So let's just do socket timeout 0. Okay. That says sent photocell 0. Is that a true thing that happened? Yes, although by the time we made it to the page, it had also sent 1 and now has sent 2 as well. That's just going to keep going, and then on off, it does the other way around. Oh, hey, look, there's some errors here from us sending stuff that was unrecognized. Also, we got throttled. Sorry, Adafruit.io. My bad. Yeah, probably being able to set up my own broker server. Okay, yeah, it's from 51, which is about 10 minutes ago, so I think that was the, I've never seen this before. I guess I never have scrolled down far enough, or I don't use this page or something. I don't know. It's kind of cool, though. I didn't know there was just like a big table like this. Yeah, I think that script we were running a minute ago, I think might have rate limited us there. This one goes this way, and then we should receive. Yeah, there we go. So we received the 0. So we need a way to test and see if this is blocking or not. Although I will say the ping seems fine. The simple test works here, which makes me think that this ping PR here is fine. Is not here anymore, yes, but instead somewhere else. Also means, presumably, theoretically, we got our conflicts reserved successfully. We can push this, which will update the PR branch. So that hopefully there will be no conflicts listed here. How's it going, Tyth? Sorry. Actually, it looks like you just started chatting to me here. Yeah, thanks for the ping as well, because I totally did have this not pulled up. Those tables appear at the bottom after enough data arrives on the right-hand side initially. Also, there's another free test. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. mqtteclipse.org. It's a handy one to throw in the old back pocket. Yeah, let's try Google for it first. This one. Try that one. Looks like they've done couple of different ones. So who's Eclipse Mosquito? So I've seen Mosquito before. I don't know. Is that that's the name of a server? I think, right? Yeah. Server implementation. So then Eclipse is Eclipse the Eclipse Foundation. Eclipse is the entity behind Mosquito. Oh, and Eclipse, like just Eclipse ID. I don't use very much anymore these days, but certainly grew up on. Okay. So, okay, so Eclipse made Mosquito as well. Interesting. Wait, this looks a lot like a Django table in the admin. Huh. Okay. Yeah, that's probably the one we should try to set up, Mosquito. You know, I'd really love, I mean, this is definitely a side tangent for CircuitPython, but one thing I'd really love to do one of these days is figure out how to use a Django server together with a, I guess, Mosquito server or whatever. Kind of integrate the two together, but my login settings are just eclipse.org. Interesting. It may be the case where they just don't have like it could be MQTT only, right? Like my browser is gonna hit it as just an HTTP request, which it might, you know, doesn't have a server answering HTTP on port 80, so that'd be my guess. And then on this one here, it looks like they do listen. They listen on HTTP and HTTPS, although you do have to tag a /MQTT in there, which we didn't here, but then because they're already listening on HTTP and HTTPS, they also handled the base URL with a quick little HTML page there. On this one, although I mean it appears to be run by the same entity. Interesting. Yeah, good to know though. I do appreciate the tip. All right, yeah, this is back to no conflicts, and it is passing. And I can't run the full test, but it seems okay to me. The code looks good to me. The test of the parts that I can do work, so kind of inclined to call it good. There is a new test for it as well. Oops. All right, 1 second here. I think we are gonna swap over to some different music. Let's see, what do we want? I think, let's start with this. Let's see where that gets us. One thing to note, client ID must be unique on the server per username, so use advanced settings to define a unique one, as there is no username for Eclipse test server. Some clients plus libraries default to MAC address or blank. I gotcha. So basically the server wants to have something unique to be able to tell different clients apart still. All right, 1 second here. I'm gonna merge this. I'm gonna go set up this thing to block the sun from shining my eye here. Okay, we can release that improved ping handling, and then I will try to test the blockingness, and then we will also end up, I think, creating a new PR to fix the defaults of the timeouts being such that they don't work by default. So I should have noticed that before I merged that one, but I didn't. Got honed in on the just the example that was given there rather than also testing a different one. Will be 7.5. Oops, 8. Ping handling. Okay. Let's see. Easiest way to test blockingness, I think, is just modify this code to not use time.sleep and instead use isItTime as like an ideology or whatever, methodology. So we're gonna say last MQTT time equals 0. We are gonna say now equals time.monotonic. We are going to say interval. UTT interval equals 5 seconds. We're going to say if now is less than or equal to the last MQTT time plus the interval, then we will do all of this stuff. But we will not do this. So we need to update the time. Last equals now. Okay, so we update the time, we loop, we send, we'll publish our increment number. Strangely, we increment after we publish, which is interesting, but we'll loop, so we'll receive new data from on-off, and then we're no longer sleeping, which means this will be getting called really fast now. So let's do I equals 0, print I plus 1. So now I will just go up and up and up really fast, and print, technically our print will slow this program down some, but as long as we don't have like huge delays, then I think we're good, right? And we currently have, I'm like in the wrong file here. Less than equals or greater than equals? Yeah, thank you. I even stopped and considered it for like multiple seconds and still came to the wrong conclusion. All right, apparently I need to go feed the scat. BRB. Okay, cat is satisfied. Okay, so yeah, if it blocks, then we would see these rise more slowly. One thing is we are still gonna fail the first time because of the timeouts right now, right? So if we're looking for the least amount of blocking, we would also always want to be setting the socket timeout right here to 0 because that does default to 1. As we saw a minute ago, I think, although I'm not going to say that I'm like 100% certain of that at this point. That should make it so that loop just returns immediately if there's no data. Yeah. Okay, see, we print very fast. So fast that we didn't even really get a chance to see the other stuff happening, but we could go look at photocell. We would never be able to see this scroll past, unfortunately, so that's not really a thing we can see anymore. Photocell made it up to 2, which is perfect because we were just over 10 seconds, right? We were publishing every 5 seconds. We started on 0. We started on 0 before we started counting, then we published again around the 5-second mark, then we published again around the 10-second mark. These are not seconds, actually, though. These are just numbers, but they look sort of close to milliseconds. One thing we could do instead of doing I is just print now instead. And they would be seconds. Yeah, and honestly, those numbers were a pretty good facsimile for milliseconds, as it turns out. This will basically publish every 5 seconds, although I don't know which number it's on. Yeah, now we're up to 3. Okay. All right, so this is on an ESP32S3, and it does not block. So we could have like requests or other things happening in here, and the loop shouldn't be a problem. You can see live data arriving without seconds, sadly, at overview. Yeah, I think that's what I was on earlier. That was the new one that I hadn't seen, although I don't know how to get back to it. Is it just this? Yeah. This was the part. Oh, that's not there anymore. Maybe it needs to be after the page loads. What is it? Is it still running? No, I stopped it. Huh. Yeah, I thought it was here earlier, actually. I don't know. Oh. Okay, okay, I see what you're saying. Earlier you said the right column as well. I didn't understand what you meant, and I didn't stop and ask, but I get it now. This streams data into the right-hand column. Probably I must have been like this, yeah, which put it at the bottom, which is why I thought it was at the bottom. Okay. Yeah, this part I had not seen before, I don't think, which is super cool, actually. I like this. Data and errors. Yeah, I did see the errors pop up, which is cool as well. Oh, somehow I forced it to the bottom even though I'm in full screen, which is odd. Huh. Okay. All right, so ESP32S3 is all good on non-blocking. If you set, importantly, Axel, if you're still around, you need to set the socket timeout to 0. I believe it defaults to 1. Let's double check that. I believe it defaults to 1, and I believe that with that default, it would make it so that that loop is going to take 1 second each time you call loop. I'll double check that as well. Yeah, defaults to 1. So definitely, if that does what I think, it will make the loop go much slower. Well, okay, so now, yeah, so default 1. So we actually need to... Okay, so loop, so for the PR that I'm about to make, I was thinking of just changing the default here maybe, or changing the default up here maybe. But the true change, I think, should be inside loop. If you don't pass a number, it should default you to the socket timeout. Rather than me changing the numbers, just loop should take whatever the socket timeout is, because like especially if you haven't passed it, right? Okay, but in our case, we do want it to be 1. But that's, then we're using 1. We're like telling it to pause, right? I don't know. It's actually still going really fast though. Oh, because it's only doing, yeah, so now that's when it's stopping right here. Right there where it paused, that is this 1 second thing, okay. Which makes sense, yeah. And then the rest of every other iteration when we don't print this, we just print now and it's very, very fast. So yeah, by default, I mean, technically at this very instant, by default, you have to declare either this to be 0 or you have to put this to 1. And if you want non-blocking, then 1 here is definitely not what you want. So 0 here is what you want. But that does not block on the ESP32S3 with native networking, which I assume it would be the same for everything with native networking. So I will grab my PyPortal. I'll copy this code. Copy the code. Yeah, I guess we'll copy the code. It's going to change some because of the networking setup. How's it going, Coding Pandas? Let's just copy that. I have a file called airlift MQTT NeoPixel. Really weird because this device has native networking. All right, that's there. Unplug this, plug in the PyPortal. .800 beta 6, let's update that. Let's try both current stable and beta 0. I'm usually more of a beta alpha version kind of a person, but it's also good to check the stable if you're looking for a specific problem. We use loop from Adafruit.io. Could it be passed over from there? Passed over. I'm not sure. Could it be passed from over there? Could it be passed? I'm not sure what you mean if it could be passed. The timeout value or show was removed. Okay, this is old something. It was a Chomper game test. Play a display. How did this end up here? I don't think I meant to put this on here. Oh, okay. No, it's not. This is a flip input. I was just looking at different code. Test. Let's put that over there. Okay. Actually, gonna probably start with a new one. The non-blocking timeout value. Should be passed over from there? I do not know. That will depend on how it uses MQTT object. I would, top of my head, I would assume the answer is yes, but the truth is I don't actually have any idea. Oh, wait a minute. Do you... How does this work? Okay. Yeah, when you use Adafruit.io library, you still create the MQTT object, at least according to this example. So when you create that MQTT object, that's when you would be able to put in right under this or whatever, just as another argument, that socket timeout 0 right here before you create that IO MQTT, as in loop 0 for non-blocking. So yeah, I would, if it were me, I would do it. I would not do it to where you're passing a number here. I had to put a number there because of the way the code was, and I needed to get it to 1 because it defaults to 0. But like the fact that it defaults to 0, if I were you and you don't want blocking, I would not. I would just leave this blank. And then, but you should still be able to set your socket timeout here as the argument to that MQTT object. Socket timeout equals 0. And then if you have blank here, that should be fine, and it should be not blocking, to the best of my knowledge. Let's grab this. This is doing time, though. Let's go back one step, though. Actually, let's do this first. Want this. .io. Okay, here we go. This is basically the same. Yeah. This is basically the same code we had for native, which does have time.sleep by default. So it does, by default, have that blocking chunk from time.sleep for sure. And I don't think it changes the default timeout, so it probably also has the 1 second. Okay. And then I'm fixing to make a PR here in a moment, which will make it so that if you omit this, you'll get an actual default that works. And this is on a PyPortal Titano. We did update to 900 beta 0. We got a fail on 86 set socket. Module has no set socket. So I think that is because of what? Okay, I probably don't have the latest version. Let's grab this. Actually head to main. I should not have this also. I should get rid of that for a moment. I think it's time to delete the first one of these that's not, and grade this one to not. No module. Okay, because I deleted it. It means it won't block when there's no data. Like it still takes time to receive data. So when data comes in, you still have to spend time to receive it. But what it means is like it won't wait for data if it's not there. So like when it's on 1, which is what the current default is, it will wait for up to 1 second. So after you call loop, there'll be 1 second of time where during that time, if a new MQTT comes in, it will be returned as part of that loop. If you set it to 0, what that means is it checks if there's new data right now, and if there's not, then it returns instantly. But if there is, it reads it and it returns it. That reads it and returns it, that part does still take time. Not a full second, it shouldn't. I mean, it depends on how much data it is, I suppose, but that part there is still blocking in the sense of like no other code can be running at that time. Unless you bring in things like RP2040 in the second core, which is outside the CircuitPython kind of universe, basically. So like something really far out there, it could be doing other stuff, but yeah. I wonder if socket timeout should be 0 by default. Certainly seems like most people are expecting that to not do that 1 second block, maybe. Why would you want it to be blocking ever? I'm probably the wrong person to answer, because I've never really used MQTT for any real project. So like, my response to that is like, why would you use MQTT over WebSockets? But that's obviously not a good response. It's just because I have experience with WebSockets and not many MQTT. I mean, I think you would want it, like if you value the getting the message, it depends what your other, like what other stuff your script is doing, right? Like if your script has another thing that takes 5 seconds, having that 1 second delay gives you a 1 second window of like you can receive data there. Whereas if you don't have that, you're going to hit your 5 seconds of whatever else it's doing, and you don't receive that data until another, 6 seconds or whatever, because you have to wait for that. I think it just depends entirely on what your program is doing. Some people will value the wait for the response for X amount of time, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. In some scenarios, that's going to make sense. You want to wait for it. In some scenarios, it's going to be like, no, I don't want to wait for it. I just want to do whatever my other thing is. I can't give you a good, this is the time when this one makes sense, and that's the time when that one makes sense, really. But that's the best guess I got, really. Best answer I got. I mean, you could submit a PR with a proposal to change the default. What did I call this? I called this native, well, it's okay, it's code, and then native networking. There it is. I mean, that's partially what I was trying to consider right now is like, should we change this to 0 also, or should we leave it as 1? I have no idea why it got set to 1 in the first place. I didn't, best of my knowledge, I'm not the one who set it to 1. we know this. I ended up not actually using I. So this is what I want right here. Copy this part to right there, and then this, and then we comment this. I gotcha. Yeah, my guess is there's some scenario where it makes sense, but I don't know. This is all dependent on what you're receiving and like how often it's sent and what other stuff your script does is all the best factors I got. So I did have these, but they are outside of the loop, which is up here actually. So we can skip the I think. We don't need that. Okay, so we need to update this, otherwise it will only run once. Or that's not true, it will run every time. Yeah, and then we can have print now. One thing that might be good is to check in an example that does have a 0 timeout. If we leave, I guess if we change the default, it doesn't matter that much. I think I'm coming down on the side of changing the default to 0, probably. It sounds like more folks are expecting that to be 0 than anything else, based on the all the issues that have been opened. Was that new with that other PR? Or was that there before, but maybe had different behavior? Did this add that? I understand that that's not a very useful statement to ask out loud, but... No. This added a timeout to wait for message and to socket exact receive. Okay. The socket timeout did exist before, but it's unclear to me. It might not have worked properly. I did not go back and test the version before that PR. Okay, that should be all set. I don't think I've restarted it in a minute, so it's just not doing anything. I will connect. Okay. This one is stuck right now, actually, and it's right before here. Let's verify. Print before, print after. Hypothesis is we are stuck in loop. Yeah, okay, we're stuck in loop, and I think it's because it's not receiving anything, and I think this is the version of ESP32 SPI. So this does actually, well, hold on. Let me check my root. Did I change my root? Change my root to not have ESP32 SPI, right? So this part, this I do think is ESP32 SPI library is on the old version still. It must be still frozen in to the old version, I think. I do not currently have it in the root at all. And then it is in here, but that doesn't matter on this device because it's frozen in. You have these two, but they don't have the proper names, so they would not be getting used. Okay, and then just to verify this is what I think it is, if I go and I make a new value here, this will iterate by one loop, basically. Oops. Yeah, so that is stuck on loop. This I have seen before. That I believe is the library. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go circup install Adafruit ESP32 Spy, that's going to download the latest version and install it, but it's going to install it in the lib directory. Not actually what we want. And actually, there's one in there, which I'm going to delete right now. That way, Circup will actually do this. So we're going to delete that one. I'm going to install this, which is going to put it in lib, but then I'm going to have to go manually copy it from lib to the root. I'll cut it so that, I'll cut it so that, I don't even know what I just did. I don't really want it to refactor though. I don't know, that might have changed a bunch of code. I don't want that. I'm gonna undo that. Undo move. Sometimes PyCharm gets a little bit too trying to be helpful on you, and you gotta just go outside of PyCharm and be like, I don't really want you to change a bunch of stuff. I just want to move this folder. Okay, there we go. That's now in the root. This did not change. So now we rerun this. It says that it does have no module socket. SP spy, Adafruit spy socket. I think it was, well, no, it made it further than that, did it? I think it made it further. Okay. I think it was not done a minute ago when we got this. No module. This, I think it just wasn't done copying. But it is still doing the exact same thing here, where we're stuck on this. So loop is still stuck. Loop is stuck, I should say. Maybe still is not the right word. We should try the versions. I don't know if we'll get the right version. We'll try to print the versions, though. Curious what this does. If this breaks after 1 second, or... Yeah. This is probably why that defaults to 1. This might be why that defaults to 1. You did 0. No. I think that ESP32 SPI socket might have different... Let's try to check the versions also. I think that ESP32 SPI might have different behavior with 0. I think it might be possible that 0 is being interpreted as wait forever instead of wait for none. There's no version. 613. Is that would be the current, I mean, that should be the currently released one because I just installed it. Yeah. Okay. And then if we rename this, this will tell us if it works the same way, which I don't know, but if it does, this will tell us the version of the one frozen in. So we at least know if we are on the newest. It's not copy. Definitely, we do have a difference. Yeah, see, it's because it's frozen in, and it gets frozen in from the repo. I wish we could have that populated. That would be super nice if we could have that populated. So I am thinking that I recall somewhere seeing something about ESP32 SPI socket using timeout as to mean something different, basically. Not the, so if you used 0, I think that might mean wait forever. Because it says if self underscore timeout greater than 0. Yeah. This logic right here means that this, when it is set to 0, it cannot time out, basically, because of this. I don't know if that is documented somewhere. Yeah. So is that different from CPython? Okay. Also, though, my theory, though, is now, I think... So technically, you can't use 0 if you're still around Axel. Technically, you can't use 0 because of that, at least not right now. So I think it would be the next best thing. So I tried 0, 1, but that was also not working. But I think... that's gonna, because that's gonna set socket timeout to 0, so we just can't do that. And then this is gonna cry because I think it was typed as int, but it should probably, I think it will support a float as well. This will raise the exception. For not being greater than or whatever. Yeah. But the float's fine. I think we can change that type. I think that's just typed as a float, or as an int, but I think it could be a float. But then we need to match it here. So if we go 0.01 here, this will take our time out down to 0.1 seconds. I think you could tack another 0 to make it negligible. But let's double check. I've been doing a lot of saying I think it's this way, and it's been doing a lot of being different than that way, so. Okay, yeah. This gets us down to a 1/10 of a second timeout. If you wanted even shorter, you could go 0, 1 in both of these, I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to have a way to measure the difference, but you can at least make sure it still runs. And then I'll check CPython. Missed your realization, why can't it have a 0? So that is because in ESP32 SPI, there is this thing which says if the timeout is set to 0, then it means that it blocks forever. So basically, it's using 0 as a special value to mean block forever. And the actual literal code that implements it is right here. Inside of receive into, if the timeout is greater than 0 and some things, then it can time out. But if that's equal to 0, then it can never time out. Now, one thing is, if that's different than CPython, my guess is we would want to change it. But it's also a little bit like we're beholden to the ESP32 chip and the firmware that's on it. It could be the case that it is just not possible for us to match. Okay, so for CPython, can I link to this? For CPython, the behavior is positive, behaves the same. 0 behaves different. 0 is opposite in CPython. 0 is non-blocking in CPython, whereas in ESP32 SPI, 0 is blocking, and then in CPython, none is blocking. And I don't even know. This doesn't specify anything about none. Not sure if it would work. Kind of assume it won't work, but I don't know. Okay. So I think one thing that's definitely actionable from that is we should go to here and we should make an issue about this if there's not one already. Timeout. That's a different thing. I don't see, none of those look the same. None of those look like the same thing. Argument value, argument 0 value, meaning differs CPython. And a value of none is used for blocking, which would match behavior, current behavior of ESP32 SPI. Let's set timeout socket. let's do that. I will probably try checking into that later on. If it's possible to change ESP32 SPI so that it does not have that exception for 0, that difference in behavior, like if we can make it to behave the same as CPython, then it would be possible to pass 0, which I think makes a lot more sense than having to do a 0-1. But a 0-1 should get you by for now. If you do a 0-1 socket timeout on your MQTT initializer, and then you also have to then do a 0-1, so what I was saying before about leaving this blank, you won't be able to do that unless I go make another PR and we change in the library again. But like right now, I'm speaking of current state of the library as it is now. You would have to include this here, but then you'll get a 1/100th of a second, or you could tack in more zeros if you want to try to get it as low as you can. But we definitely, I do need to do that change I was just talking about, because we want the default to work. So I think what we do is, let's just leave I'm going to leave the 1 alone, since 0 causes different behavior depending on which connection method you're using. I don't want to default to 0 until we fix that difference. Like if those can behave the same, then defaulting to 0 I think is the best option off the top of my head right now, at least. But with those being different, I think defaulting to 1 is actually okay. Probably the best, because 1 has the same behavior no matter which networking you're using. But what we need, though, for sure is if you don't set anything anywhere, it should work, which today it doesn't, because here we have 1 there, and then in loop, it sets it to 0 by default, which is then less than the socket timeout, so we just raise by default. Okay. Unable to receive 1 bytes within 60 seconds. What version of CircuitPython do you have? And can you post a screenshot of the contents of your CircuitPy drive and the contents of your lib directory? Although lib directory is probably less important in this case, but you can tell me that 829. Okay, I'll try 829 in a minute. I am on, for what it's worth though, I'm on 900 beta 0, and I've got no blocking here, so it might be worth updating if possible. I can change socket timeout to float, because we saw that is allowed to be a float. And then the other thing we want to do is loop needs to have a default that succeeds. So we could set this to 1, and then the default would succeed. But it would only succeed if the user does not set a lower socket timeout, or a higher socket timeout, I mean. Okay, CircuitPy. Okay. Okay, so you've got nothing on root, so you should be using whatever's frozen in to 829. So yeah, I'll check that here in just a second. And yeah, there will be a lot of libraries. In this case, most of them are unrelated, but it's good to see. So mini-MQTT is the main one that will be important in the lib directory, which is there. So let's go loop here. So yeah, we could change this to 1. I don't think that's best though, right? Because it's still gonna then break if they change socket timeout. Instead, I think let's make this optional float, and then let's default to none, and then let's say if timeout is none, then set it to the socket timeout. This way, no matter what they set the socket timeout to, if they don't pass anything to loop, it will still work. Okay, and then with this one, we should be able to take this out. It should still go. And then I'm going to make a branch for this, if this succeeds, and then I'll check 829 on my device. But it may be the case that you just need to update, because it may be the case that 829 has got an older version of ESP32 SPI frozen in. But let's see. Okay, that's good. I'm going to make the branch right here so that I don't forget. Git checkout -b timeout. Let's say fix default timeout, and then let's say we want to go from Adafruit main. No track. Thank you. Okay. 829, which I already downloaded earlier, I think. So we can go to bootloader. A lot of home directories open. 829 right there. What are these PRs merged in your code? So the thing that I just did right now, the branch that I just made, is not in a PR yet, and it is in the code that it's on my device, but I'll delete it and go back to the currently released one in a second. The PRs that were merged earlier today that did exist, those are merged, and they will be in mine when I test it here in a second. But this change that I just made to loop just now and made a branch for, that's not on a PR yet, so I will test without it in a moment. I don't think it should affect it. I mean, the way that it would affect it is just whether or not you have to include the argument to loop. So it will affect it because it has a difference if you use the argument or not, but it won't. It should not make it block versus not block, I don't believe. The branch that I just had there. Okay. We are on 829 now, and it is the version which does not have this, but should actually. I'm surprised it didn't. Surprised it didn't raise, actually, but maybe I didn't update main before I made this. No, because this has the raise right here. Oh, well, yeah, obviously. So I have the version which has the fix in it. Yeah, so like I was just saying, what we need to do is delete this, which is the version that does have my latest change, the fix to loop argument. This should fail. Doesn't have that. So I'll circup install it, circup, so that we get whatever is currently released. And then I do not have ESP32 SPI, so I'm not using, I am using the frozen in one. I don't have any modified one there, so whatever's frozen in to 829 is what I'd be using for ESP32 SPI. I believe this should raise. Does not actually though, but it is actually still blocking, it seems like, so. And then does it iterate the same if we actually send it? So it looks to me like, yeah, it iterates once if you send it. I'm surprised this didn't raise. It definitely does block, though. So I think that you need the newest ESP32 SPI. So I think you have two options. You can either update to 900 beta 0, which it seems like has the new version frozen in, since it was working for me a second ago. Or the option 2 is you can stay on 829, and I believe you can get the latest version of ESP32 SPI. And I believe that should work on 829, but I'll double check this as well. So I'm going to do it the same way I did a minute ago. I'm going to install ESP32 SPI. That's going to put it in the lib directory. I'm then going to copy it out of the lib directory and into the root. So that is going to overtake the frozen library. Yeah, so it looks like those are the two options for right now. If you want to stay on 829, you have to get the latest version of ESP32 SPI and put it in the root of your CircuitPy. So not lib, but the root of CircuitPy. Or if you update to 900 beta 0, the frozen one is already updated as part of that update to 900. And so then you can just, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just use it like normal. You don't have to put this in the root. You technically wouldn't even have to put it in lib, although Circup is going to put it in there when you install something else anyway. But it would be using the frozen one, which would have been updated with 900. 148 and 168. Let's see, Well, so this code that I just tested right now is the released one. The released mini MQTT, because I installed it with Circup. So whatever is currently released is what I got. And then to answer your question, 148, yes, that one is merged, 148, and 168 also is merged, yes. Oh wait, 68. Oh, that might have been it said or whatever. Yeah, 184. That was the one that we started looking at on Saturday. That one is merged. That was merged a couple hours ago by Brent. So that one is in what I'm testing right now, as is 199 and 200, but I don't think these matter. This one has the if statement, which I was running into, which is why I've got the change, which I'm about to make a new PR out of. But as far as blocking or not blocking, these two I don't believe matter. But they are in what I just tested, which was the currently released. But I am going to head out for now. I'm going to get some lunch, and I need to fill in my docs, my notes to the doc for the meeting. So to do that stuff, get ready for the meeting. I think this afternoon after the meeting, I will make this into a PR for mini MQTT, and then we'll look at like that WizNet one I pulled up. There's a few other networking things we'll look into in the afternoon, but yeah, to the best of my knowledge, mini MQTT, latest version on the PyPortal, you can do it with no blocking. You just need to make sure that you have latest ESP32 SPI, which is either update to 900 or take it and dump it in CircuitPy, the newest one. And then you will need to also set that 0.01 or whatever. You can't use 0 because of what we had discovered before. But if you do, 0.001 or something, it's like effectively the same. But with those two things, you should be able to go no blocking, should be able to do requests or anything else you want in between. I don't think whatever you do in between, I don't think should affect it. So Feel free to reach out though if you do get it all set up with that kind of stuff and you're still having trouble. Feel free to reach out. I can help you. I can help you poke through it some more. I wonder if it's worth. This is neither here nor there. More probably, I guess, for Dan. Think about than anybody else. But I wonder if we would want to backport the updated Frozen modules to 8. Make like an 8.2.10 or something. I have no idea if we would want to do that. I guess they probably would want to point people towards 9 instead. Especially, it's on a beta now, so once 9 is released as stable, it kind of resolves that problem, honestly. Which looks like it's getting close since it's a beta. Maybe it's not worth messing with the 8 branch, probably. Yeah, I think that's probably where I fall on that one. Try Adafruit.io. I guess it's the same problem. Yeah, it should work the same with Adafruit.io. You just, because you create the MQTT object first, you just make sure to make that MQTT object with the socket timeout 0.01 or whatever. And then it should work when you're using Adafruit.io as well. Yeah. Like when you set that one up, you do the socket timeout there, and then Adafruit.io comes after that, and it should just respect whatever is there, because it's basically using that object under the hood. You'll still need the same ESP32 SPI thing, so either 900 or drop that in the root, but this part should work. With Adafruit.io come after it. Alrighty, I will head out. Thanks for hanging out, folks. I will catch you all later. Next time for certain is probably Saturday morning, 10 a.m. at the usual time. So until then, I will bid you farewell and so long for now.